The alarm clock screamed 5:47 a.m. like it was personally offended I was still breathing. The ceiling had become my therapist, same cracks, same water stain in the corner, same silent conversations with someone I wasn't entirely sure was listening. 3 emails from my boss sitting in my inbox like unexploded ordnance. The subject lines got progressively worse as you scrolled down: quick check-in, never quick, following up, code for where is this, and the grand finale, just question mark. Which in corporate speak translates to I've lost all patience with you, Karen. I didn't open them. Not yet. Not before coffee. Then the text message from the bank. Scheduled. Automated. Completely indifferent to my humanity. Reminder, your loan payment of $847.32 is due in 3 days. All of them adding up to a weight that pressed down on my chest in a way that had become disturbingly familiar. The apartment was silent except for the refrigerator humming, the low, mechanical purr that somehow sounds louder at 5:47 in the morning when you're staring down the barrel of another day you don't feel equipped to face. God, do you even see me right now? Not fix this. Not send money. Not make my boss disappear into a parallel dimension. Just see me. To God. To everyone. To yourself. The mirror didn't lie. It never does. That's what makes it so cruel. Eyes that looked like they'd been through a weekend they didn't agree to. Shoulders curved forward like I was physically bracing against something only my soul could name. And then, the smile. The practice smile. You know the one. The one you rehearse before you walk out the door so nobody asks questions you don't have the energy to answer. Slight upturn at the corners. Not too much. Just enough to deflect. Just enough to say I'm fine when I'm fine has become the most efficient lie we tell. I held it for 3 seconds. Watched it not reach my eyes. Dropped it. That's when I said it out loud. To the mirror. To the silence. To whoever might be listening on the other side of the ceiling. I don't know if this faith thing is actually changing anything. There. I admitted it. After all the Sunday mornings. After all the worship songs with hands half raised because full commitment felt too vulnerable. After all the verses highlighted and underlined and screenshotted and sent to friends going through hard things. After all of it, I was standing in my bathroom on a random Tuesday, fluorescent light buzzing overhead like a judgment, confessing what I'd been too afraid to say for months. I don't know if I believe this works anymore. Not that I stopped believing in God. I hadn't. That wasn't the problem. The problem was worse. I believed in God, I just wasn't sure He believed in me. Or noticed me. Or had any intention of showing up in ways that actually changed the numbers on the screen and the weight on my chest and the cold coffee on my desk. The prayer life that used to feel like a conversation had started feeling like leaving voicemails on a disconnected line. Same words. Same requests. Same silence afterward. Let me tell you about the door. 6 months ago, there was an opportunity. A job. The kind of job that felt like an answer to prayer before I even finished praying. Every detail lined up. The timing. The location. The salary, the salary would have erased every decimal point of stress currently living in my bank account. I prayed about it. I really prayed about it. The kind of prayer where you actually listen instead of just talking. The kind where you wait. And everything in my spirit said this is it. This is the door. Walk through it. So I did. Or I tried to. 3 rounds of interviews. Each one went better than the last. The hiring manager used phrases like "you're exactly what we're looking for" and "we're so excited" and "this is the one that really got me, I feel like God sent you." Who says that unless it's true? Then the email came. The one with "unfortunately" in the first sentence. The one that doesn't even have the decency to be long enough to justify the devastation it delivers. 3 paragraphs. That's all it took to undo months of hope. I read it in the parking lot of a grocery store. Engine off. Frozen meals melting in the back seat. And I just sat there. God, you told me to walk through this door. Why did you let it slam in my face? That question didn't come with peace. It came with anger. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't shout because shouting would mean you still have energy to fight. This was the anger of exhaustion. The anger of confusion. The anger of feeling led to a dead end and then abandoned there. Why did you bring me here just to leave me? I didn't get an answer that day. Or the next. Or the next. And that's the thing about faith nobody warns you about. Sometimes the silence isn't a test. Sometimes it's just silence. No burning bush. No still small voice. No dramatic breakthrough. Just you and your unanswered questions and a God who seems to have gone completely quiet at the exact moment you needed him to speak. Here's the truth I'm learning, and I'm still learning it, so don't think I'm standing on some mountaintop of revelation right now. Faith is not a feeling. It is a choice. Especially when you no longer feel anything at all. That's not a sermon. That's survival. That's what you tell yourself at 5:47 a.m. when the lamp is still on and the coffee is still cold and God still hasn't answered the one prayer you've been praying for 6 months. Faith isn't the warmth in your chest during worship. Faith is the decision to keep showing up when your chest feels like concrete and worship feels like performance. I used to think doubt was the enemy of faith. I don't believe that anymore. I think the real enemy is pretending. Pretending you're fine. Pretending you're not disappointed. Pretending the silence doesn't hurt. Pretending you haven't read the same verse 100 times and still aren't sure you believe it applies to you. The real danger isn't asking hard questions. That strange thing wasn't an instant miracle. It was a shift inside my own spirit. And honestly, that shift almost destroyed me first. The weeks after that rejection email were not pretty. I wish I could tell you I prayed through it with grace and patience and unshakable trust. I didn't. I spiraled. Hard. I stopped sleeping. Not the romantic kind of insomnia where you gaze thoughtfully at the moon and journal profound revelations. The ugly kind. The kind where you stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m. and your mind replays every decision you've ever made like a prosecutor building a case against you. You were stupid to think God was leading you. You probably made the whole thing up. You're one of those people now, the ones who hear what they want to hear and call it the Holy Spirit. My prayer life went silent. Not because I stopped believing, I still believed, technically. But talking to God felt like talking to a wall. No. Worse. A wall doesn't make promises. A wall doesn't give you peace about a direction and then watch you walk straight into a dead end. And I asked the question I'd been too afraid to say out loud. Did I hear you wrong? Not a rhetorical question. Not a poetic one. A terrified one. Because if I couldn't trust what I thought was God's voice, what could I trust? If my discernment was that broken, that unreliable, that capable of manufacturing a yes when God was saying no, then what was my faith even built on? Was it all just wishful thinking? Did I want that job so badly that I baptized my ambition and called it prophecy? Have I been fooling myself this whole time? Let me pause here. Because maybe you know this parking lot. That's the mirror moment. That's where I was. And if you're there right now, I need you to hear what happened next, not because I'm some spiritual giant, but because I'm the opposite. I'm the person who got it wrong, who fell apart, who questioned everything, and found that God was bigger than my breakdown. Here's what I didn't understand at the time. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." I'd heard that verse 1,000 times. I'd highlighted it. I'd put it on a coffee mug. But I'd never actually done it. Not really. Because here's what I was actually doing. I was trusting in my understanding and asking God to bless it. I was leaning on my own intelligence, my own planning, my own ability to calculate the odds and read the signs and make the right moves, and then I was inviting God to rubber stamp what I'd already decided. And when that door slammed, it wasn't just a job rejection. It was God breaking my fingers off the steering wheel. I had been relying, leaning, putting my full weight on my own understanding. My spreadsheets. My pro and con lists. My careful strategy sessions disguised as prayer. And God, in His terrifying mercy, had to shatter that before He could build anything real. The memorable truth I'm carrying from that season is this: a closed door is not always rejection. Sometimes it's protection. Delay is not always failure. Sometimes it's preparation. But oh, it doesn't feel like that when you're in it. When you're in it, a closed door feels like abandonment. Silence feels like indifference. Waiting feels like wasting away. And yet, God used those months of nothing, those empty, aching, unanswered months, to do something I couldn't have done if I'd gotten what I wanted when I wanted it. He taught me to pray when I had no words left. Not the polished prayers. Not the confident declarations. The desperate ones. The help me ones. The I don't even know if you're listening but I don't have anywhere else to go ones. He taught me to trust when I couldn't see a single step ahead. Faith isn't faith if you have a backup plan. Faith isn't faith if you can see the whole path. Faith is the decision to keep walking when the fog is so thick you can't even see your own feet. And He taught me to release my grip when every instinct in my body was screaming at me to hold on tighter. Surrender is not weakness. Surrender is the hardest thing you will ever do because it goes against every survival mechanism you possess. I wish I could tell you I learned all this gracefully. I didn't. I fought it. I argued with God. I told Him out loud, in my car, like a crazy person, that His plan didn't make sense, that His timing was terrible, that I had bills to pay and a reputation to maintain and people watching who would think I'd lost my mind if I kept saying God is faithful while my life kept falling apart. He let me say all of it. Every accusation. Every doubt. Every angry, tear-soaked word. And when I was finally empty, when I had nothing left to throw at Him, He was still there. That's grace. Not the polite, Sunday morning kind. The raw, desperate, 11 p.m. in a hospital parking lot kind. But there was one night when everything shifted. I had gone to bed around midnight, exhausted but wired, the way you are when your body gives out but your mind refuses to surrender. I fell into that shallow, restless sleep that doesn't actually rest anything, the kind where you're half aware you're sleeping and half convinced you're still awake. And then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., I know it was 3:17 because I looked at the clock the second my eyes opened, I sat straight up in bed with a verse ringing in my mind so clearly it was like someone had spoken it aloud in the room. One verse. Not a sermon. Not a vision. Not an angel. Just words. But words that cut through every lie, every fear, every doubt that had been suffocating me for months. And that verse, that moment, was the beginning of a door opening that I never saw coming. A door I hadn't knocked on. A door I hadn't even known existed. Not the job I'd prayed for. Not the plan I'd made. Something completely unexpected. Something that would prove, in ways I couldn't manufacture or predict, that the one who closes doors also opens them and no one can shut what He decides to open. That verse, the one that pulled me out of sleep at 3:17 a.m. like someone had grabbed my shoulder, was Psalm 90 verse 17. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands upon us, yes, establish the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. Not bless whatever you decide to do. Not rubber stamp your 5-year plan. Not make your dreams come true if you want them badly enough. Establish. Make it firm. Make it solid. Make it last. And here's the part that wrecked me. I realized I had spent years asking God to bless my plans without ever asking Him what His plans were. I'd been praying, "God, please open this door," when He'd been whispering, "Child, that's not even the right building." See, here's what nobody tells you about closed doors. Sometimes God closes them because He knows what's behind them. And sometimes, this is the part one couldn't see at 3 a.m. but can see now, the closed door is not punishment. It's protection with a rough edge. Dear friend, is it possible that you are exhausted right now because you've been trying to force open doors God closed for a reason? Is it possible that you've been asking God to bless something He never told you to pursue? Is it possible that the very thing you're grieving, the delay, the rejection, the silence, is actually the evidence that God is still protecting you, still guiding you, still loving you enough to say no? But love doesn't always say yes. Sometimes love says wait. Sometimes love says no. Sometimes love says, "I have something better, but you have to trust me enough to let go of what you're holding." And that's the moment when faith stops being a concept and becomes a decision. Here's what I want you to do right now, not later, not when you feel ready, not when everything makes sense. Right now, in this moment, I want you to make a decision of surrender. Not surrender like giving up. Surrender like finally putting down a weight you were never meant to carry alone. Surrender like a child who stops fighting their father and finally lets themselves be held. Write this in the comments: "I receive God's favor and I trust Him to open the right doors today." This is not positive thinking. This is not a magic formula. This is an act of faith, a declaration that you trust God more than you trust your circumstances, more than you trust your fears, more than you trust the closed doors that are staring you in the face. Type it out. Let it be the first step of a different kind of walking. Because here's a truth I want you to carry with you into the rest of this week, into the rest of this month, into every uncertain season you will ever face. The midweek miracle is not always God making everything disappear. Sometimes the miracle is peace that doesn't make sense while you're still waiting. Sometimes the miracle is strength to keep going when you have no reason to keep going. Sometimes the miracle is the quiet, unexplainable confidence that even though nothing has changed on the outside, something has shifted on the inside. That's what Psalm 90 verse 17 is about. It's about the difference between building something yourself and letting God establish it. When you build alone, you're limited by your own strength, your own wisdom, your own perspective. But when God establishes the work of your hands, He brings resources you didn't know existed. He opens doors you didn't know were there. He connects you with people you haven't even met yet. He does what only He can do, and He gets the glory, because you know there's no way you could have done this on your own. So let me pray for you, not a quick, polished prayer, but the kind of prayer I prayed in that dark room at 3:17 a.m. when I had nothing left but honesty. Father, I come to you this morning not as someone who has all the answers, but as a child who still needs their father to hold their hand. I'm tired of trying to figure everything out on my own. I'm tired of pushing doors you've closed and grieving things you never intended for me. I surrender. I surrender my plans. I surrender my timeline. I surrender my need to understand everything before I trust you. I ask for wisdom to recognize which doors are from you and which doors I've been trying to force open in my own strength. I ask for the courage to let go of what you haven't given me, even when letting go feels like losing. I ask for peace in the waiting, not peace that comes from having answers, but peace that comes from knowing you. I ask for supernatural favor over my work, over my family, over my health, over every area of my life that feels stuck or uncertain right now. I ask you to establish the work of my hands, not just bless what I'm doing, but build it, secure it, make it firm in ways I could never accomplish alone. And Father, for the person watching this right now, the one who is tired, the one who is afraid, the one who is wondering if you still see them, I ask you to meet them exactly where they are. Let them feel your presence in this moment. Let them know they are not forgotten, not abandoned, not overlooked. I declare today, in the middle of this ordinary week, that you are arranging things we cannot see. You are opening doors no one can shut. You are protecting us from things we don't even know to pray against. You are preparing blessings that will only make sense when we look back and see that your hand was guiding us all along. I declare that this week will not be defined by fear, by closed doors, by rejection emails, by bills unpaid, by silence unanswered. This week will be defined by your faithfulness, not because everything is easy, but because you are with us in everything. Now, before you go back to your day, before you open those emails, before you make that phone call, before you face whatever is waiting for you outside this moment, I want you to carry this with you. Walk out of this room with a peace the world cannot give you and the world cannot take away. Remember this, and don't let it go. Faith is not knowing the future.